What is safe area? It refers to the portion of the screen that is free from obstructions by hardware features like notches, rounded corners, or home indicators on mobile devices. Unity makes it easier for us to visualize these safe areas inside the editor itself. To do so, go to your game view, click on the game dropdown and select Simulator, and then toggle the safe area. And the yellow rect shows the safe area for this particular device, and different devices have different safe areas. And to install more devices, you can click on this install additional devices. I'm going to change back to 12 Pro Max because it has margins both horizontally and vertically, which is perfect for us to test our script. I've created 2 UI panels, and in the first one, we have 4 images, which I'm going to anchor to each corner of its parent UI. In the first image, notice its position and anchor points and its pivot. I'm going to set its anchors min X and Y to 0 and 1. Now you can notice the change here in the scene view. Let's do the same for max anchors. And now it says that our image is offset by 2077 pixels in the x-axis from its anchor point and minus 960 in the y-axis. If I change this to 0 and do the same for the x-axis, it's going to position our image at its anchor point. But this is still not quite right. That is because we need to have an offset of its width 200 divided by 2. And same for the y, minus 200 divided by 2. Or we could do one more thing. Let's set them to 0, 0. And this time, I'm going to set its pivot point to 0 in the x, notice here, and then 1 in the y. So that pivot point is also set to its top left corner. And this time, if I clear the offsets one more time, that should also work. Instead of setting them manually, for the second image, I'm going to select this rect icon and click on this top left corner. That is going to set our anchors to top left corner. But if I hold Shift while pressing that again, this time it is going to set our pivot to that corner as well. And if I hold Alt and then press this, it is going to set our position to that corner. So if I just hold Shift, Alt, and then press this, it is going to do 3 steps in just one click. Let me do the same for other 2 images. And now if I change its parent transform's rect transform, those child elements will move along with it. Let's move on to the second UI panel. And in this one, we have a single image called banner, and I want it to stretch across the bottom of the screen. So pause the video and take a moment to explore our rect icon and try to do this by yourself. All right, here we can hold Alt and click on this stretch bottom icon, and that should do it. And now if I change its parent's X position, it's going to update the banner's position as well. But unlike the first panel, if I change its X position, that is going to stretch or shrink the banner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change its position to match the safe area, something like this. But instead of working with its position, we are going to work with its anchors, because that is going to adapt more gracefully to different device resolutions and aspect ratios. I've created an empty script called Safe Area Fitter. I'm going to attach that to both the panels. And here, I need a reference to the panel's rect transform. So I'm going to create a new field for that. And inside the awake function, I'm going to use getComponent and set that field to the rect transform attached to that game object. Since this game object must have a rect transform, let's add a require component attribute. Then I'm going to create a new variable for safe area of type rect and set it to screen.safeArea. And this returns the safe area of the screen in pixels. And then an anchor min of vector 2 and set its position to the safe area's position, and anchor max of vector 2 and set it to the safe area's position with its size. Since these are in pixel coordinates, we can't simply set them to our rect transform's anchor points. As you saw earlier, they only go between 0 and 1. So we need to normalize these values first. I'm going to divide the anchor min.x and anchor max.x with the screen width, and anchor min.y and anchor max.y with the screen height. And finally, we can set the rect transform's anchor points with the newly calculated values that accounts for the safe area. Watch the anchors now. And when I enter play mode, that is going to adjust to fit within the safe area. I think we can better visualize this by entering the debug mode. In the Visual Studio, you can click on this button to enter the debug mode. I'm going to set a breakpoint here. And back in Unity, if you're doing this for the first time, you may get a prompt to enable the debug mode. So click on S to continue. And now if I enter play mode, it will take me to the breakpoint. And right now the rect transform is null. But if I move to the next line by clicking on this step over button or pressing F10 as shortcut, it is going to set the field with whatever value we got from this get component. Currently we are working with the iPhone 12 Pro Max in the landscape orientation. So if I hover over this screen, you can see its resolution, and its height is currently set to 1284 pixels and width is 2178 pixels. And this also has a safe area, and its X and Y positions are 141 and 63 pixels, and width and height are set to 2496 and 1221 pixels. And that is exactly what we are going to set this variable to. And then we are going to set the anchor min to the safe area position and anchor max to the safe area position plus its size. And now our anchor min.x is in pixels, which is not going to work because the rect transform needs normalized value. So if I just divide this value with the screen width, we're going to get 0.05. And same thing for other fields. And finally, we are simply going to set those values to our rect transform's anchor points. Now click on the continue or stop since we are done with debugging, and be sure to remove the breakpoint. Since we are only doing the calculation at awake, if I change the device screen resolution right now, I have to exit and enter the play mode again and again. So to avoid that, I'm going to extract these lines of code into a new method called fit. And then after calling this in awake function, I'm also going to do the same inside the update function, but that would be a lot of wasted resource if I calculate this every single frame, right? For that, I'm going to create 3 new fields: a rect for the last safe area, a vector2 for the last screen size, and initialize them both to the default values. And finally, a screen orientation called last orientation and initialize it with auto rotation. Then we are going to check if the current values are not equal to the cached values. If so, update the cached values and call the fit method once. And now if I change to some other device, it's going to call the fit from the update function. So this is great. Let's test if this works with orientations. Yep, this works. I just noticed that I have a UI page controller game object here. This is from the previous video. We are not going to use this in this tutorial, so I'm just going to remove this. I don't want the safe area to affect the background image. So there are 2 simple ways to go about this. The first method is to group all the UI elements into a separate game object. I'm going to press Ctrl Shift and G or the right click and create empty parent. And I'm going to set this parent game object to stretch in all directions and add the safe area component and remove the safe area component from the parent UI. Now if I press play, that seems to be working. And for the second method, I'm going to remove the background image from the main panel and instead create a child image and call this BG or background. And I'm going to stretch this in all directions and change its color and transparency. And if I set this BG as the first element, all the other children will be drawn over that object. And I'm going to change the BG's scale to more than 1. So when I enter play mode, even if the main panel itself got resized, since the background was scaled up to begin with, it did not really affect it. Now let's have a look at the second panel. When I enter play mode, this is going to resize the banner to fit within the safe area. I don't want to do what we did with the background for this because I want it to affect its Y position but not the X position. So I'm going to add 2 new booleans called ignore vertical and ignore horizontal. And inside the fit method, after getting the safe area, let's call if ignore vertical is selected, let's reset the safe area's y to 0 and safe area's height to screen.height, so it covers the entire screen. And let's do the same for ignore horizontal, but we're resetting the x position and width, and that should be it. Let me just ignore this horizontal and press play. This is great. I hope this was informative and helpful. Please let me know if you have any kind of feedback. Share these videos with your friends or anyone you think might benefit from it. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell button to know when the next video is up. Thank you again. See you soon.